If you're a health or life coach who wants to understand more about how to brand your business, then the guest that I have on the Wholehearted Business Show this week is perfect for you. I'm talking to Aiza from Studio Coya. She is a brand expert, someone who knows everything about branding businesses, but also about branding offers. This is such a great conversation. Let's dive in. So welcome, Aiza, to the Wholehearted Business Show. It's really lovely to have you here. I'm very excited to talk about all things branding, and I've looked at your website and it's amazing. And we'll be telling everyone your website address at the end to go and check you out. But just before we get started, I'd love for you just to share a bit more about yourself, who you are, what your business is about.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you for having me. First of all, I'm excited to be here too and have a nice little chat about everything. So, I'm Aiza. I call myself the brand chef. So, I'm a brand designer and I own Studio Coya, a branding studio. And I basically whip up creme de la creme branding for service providers, coaches who want their signature offers to sell. So, I don't just brand businesses, I also brand offers. And the reason I do both is because I feel like through my own experience and through my clients and everything that branding your offer means that your offer becomes more credible. And branding your business means you're nurturing your overall audience. So they're slightly two different things and has two different roles. So those are the two things that I basically offer. A little bit more about me. I was born and grew up in Hong Kong, and then I moved to the UK for 20 years, and then actually moved to Seoul 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
So I'm based in Seoul. And yeah, and I love it. I love food. So you can see, with my some
Yeah.
of my language. And if you check out my website and things like that, I talk about food a lot and I use a lot of food analogies. So I'll probably sprinkle some in
Yeah.
within this interview as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, you definitely need to go and check out Isa's website because it is wonderful. I just smiled as soon as I saw it, and I love that. And again, like, I think what's really great about your website for anyone who goes and visits. I mean, I've already got some ideas actually for my website from just looking at yours. So it's
Amazing.
like really, I just think there's something about seeing how you put all that together and the brand language that you use as well. I think that which is wonderful. But we'll come on to that in a second. But just to get into it, for anyone who's listening or watching who isn't super familiar with branding, and I think most people kind of get like colours, fonts, logos, and
Yeah.
things. But I'd love for you to talk a bit more about, what branding actually is when it comes to particularly like coaches, and yeah, kind of why should we be thinking about our branding?
Yeah, I think for coaches, there's that fine line, or I guess mix and blend between having a personal brand versus a business brand. And I think nowadays it's mostly going to be a blend because everything's all about connection and having a personal touch. So even my own brand has that, right? So in a nutshell, a brand is what other people's perception of you is. So branding essentially are the things that you do to influence people's perception. So, of course, you can't tell people what to think and what to say about you, but you can influence it. So, in different ways, through visuals, through language, through communication, all of that stuff contributes to your branding, which then helps people see you as a brand. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, love that. That is such a great explanation of that. So obviously we want to be thinking about this because it can have a big impact on a massive impact really when we're thinking about how potential clients and people are seeing your business and what they're taking from the stuff that you're putting out. So obviously it's kind of kind of an important thing that we want to be thinking about. When it comes with branding as well, how do you see it, the role in terms of helping people stand out? Because I think at the moment a lot of coaches feel like there's a lot of other coaches that the market is a little bit saturated and I'm guessing that branding can help with that, but I'd love to get your take on how branding intentionally can help with that.
Yeah, so I see it as like when you're walking along a street and you pass some restaurants, your branding is almost, it can act as the storefront. So
Yeah.
when someone walks by and they're like, "Oh, this restaurant looks good," they're not seeing the actual food that's coming out, that's being delivered to your table or what's cooking up. They're just like forming that first impression. So branding is really important for that first impression. It informs what a client can expect from
Yeah.
you just by
Yeah.
looking at you. You know, when you
Yeah.
walk past a shop, you can be like, oh yeah, I think it'll be like kind of like this. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's more understanding what you want to say and how you want to come across. Having that
Yeah.
foundational understanding will really help you know how to show up in
Yeah.
terms of your visuals and your
Yeah.
brand.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. Yeah. And yeah, I love that analogy of the storefront because I think that's exactly how it is, isn't it? And it'll, I suppose as well, another element of branding that's just popped into my head is that it's probably a good way to call in the right fit people and repel people who are
Exactly.
not the right fit as well.
Exactly. And then just to continue that
Yeah.
analogy, like when someone walks across and sees your storefront and they're like, oh, this is interesting. I want to try it. The inside, whatever you serve, like your offer and your coaching, whatever you're offering,
Yeah.
should align and how you even how you offer it and how you onboard them or like what's included in your package and
Yeah.
offboard and all of that and and every touch point that they come across should be cohesive and consistent
Yeah.
because you don't want your storefront, your branding to be misleading. And then when they come and experience things with you, it's like, oh, there's that disconnect. That's where the trust gets broken. And
Yes.
ideally, we want the branding to build the trust, right? We think of branding a lot of times as an external thing because it's
Yes.
like, oh,
Yeah.
marketing like posts and designing visuals and
Yeah.
your website and things like that. And I think it's also really important to carry it throughout your whole process end to end as well. Maybe
Yeah.
it's not as overt when it comes to delivering things, but there are little nuances or things to think about. So again, like having that initial understanding
Yeah.
will help you be able to like sprinkle those things throughout your whole business and what you offer.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think that's really good. And I think you've partly answered this question, I think, with that, because the next thing I was going to ask you about is kind of at what point should you be really thinking about and I think most coaches, when they start the businesses do, certainly when they have a website, they do start to think a little bit about branding. So they might think about like a logo and colours and fonts, like that kind of thing. And I think that initial starting point, a lot of it's DIY'd or a lot of it's Canva and things. But I'm really interested on your take in terms of what kind of what would be happening in someone's business or what would you be identifying as like actually now's a really good time to start to look at my branding a bit more intentionally or a bit more seriously and maybe investing more in it or going through a process and really thinking more about it? What would be the things that would indicate to you for someone's business that it was a good time to do that?
So I like to think about it in from two angles. One is from the coaches, like your own. So if you're thinking there's a disconnect, I don't like it, it's not reflecting who I am or what I
Hmm.
offer or what I
Yeah.
do, that's one of the big red flags. Caveat is here, some people might get bored of their branding or it's just like, oh, I just want to change, like shiny object syndrome. I want
Yes.
to change
Yeah.
something because something else isn't working and I think the visuals will help. But a lot of times it's that gut feeling of I've outgrown my branding. It's not looking
Yeah.
and feeling similar to how I show up or how I
Yeah.
offer or what I offer. That's really important to have that alignment. And then the other angle is from your client's point of view. So, like you said earlier, right, if they are passing your storefront and your ideal clients aren't coming in, that means there's something that's not quite grabbing their attention or their attention is elsewhere and they're not gravitating towards you, even though you know that what you're offering is really aligned with what they need. So
Yeah.
again, it's understanding if there's a disconnect. And if
Mhm.
there is, then that's the point where you start looking at what's missing. And a really important thing here is also to figure out what you want your branding to do for you. I
Yeah.
always say like it's really important for your branding to have a job because
Yeah.
otherwise
Yeah.
it's just pretty. Like we want branding to, whether it's connect with clients more or you feel more confident to show up. You're not like, oh, I'm embarrassed to share my website. Like let's not do that.
Yeah.
Or keep apologizing every time. Or you want to call in the right clients. You want the experience to be better so that you
Yeah.
can charge higher prices. There's always a reason for having certain types of or building branding. And then there's different ways to look at it and achieve those types of goals.
Yeah. No, no, I think that makes loads of sense, definitely. And I was really interested what you mentioned earlier on, because it's one of those things that, because I'm so in the world of coaches, but I kind of forget
Mhm.
about the difference between like a business brand and a personal brand. And as you say, I think for most coaches, that is very, very porous. But I'd love to know what your thoughts are on whether or not you think it's a blend, or should people be, or what would be the decision-making process? I think for most coaches, because of connection, there does need to be a lot of them in there. And I think it goes
Yeah.
into what you were saying there about that the branding feeling consistent, because I think ultimately people are having that experience with you, aren't they? But I mean, have you got
Yeah.
any thoughts for people around kind of helping them think about that process intentionally? Because I think what a lot of coaches do is they think more about the business brand because it's a bit scary and vulnerable to kind of put themselves into that. And
Yeah.
then later down the line, they feel this kind of disconnect, or maybe they think more about the branding in terms of what other people think rather than how it feels to them.
Yeah, I think for a coach,
Mm.
the integration needs to be there, like you
Yeah.
said, because especially if you're the one coaching your clients, then
Yeah.
that makes sense to have your personality in there. And if you work with a brand designer,
Yeah,
they should know that, your own individual personality and bringing that out in the branding is super important. I think I like to think of it as dials. So, like,
yes,
how much of the personal side do you want to dial up versus dial down? And then
yeah,
how much of a business, quote unquote, business you want to dial up and dial down. And I think it really depends on, what type of coach you are. I
yeah,
think
yeah,
some people are like, okay, I'm here to serve my clients. Like, my personality doesn't come into play. So I'd rather showcase myself as a business to help you. People, they want to come across as, I'm the connection here. I'm here to help, and I'm the individual that can help you. So
yeah,
being personable, having your personality really helps you connect with your clients. So you need to
yeah,
bring that out in your branding. For example, like myself, I dial up the personal because I find it fun and I'm the
yeah,
one designing your branding. So
yeah,
I don't see a reason to dial that down, because actually that's an asset for
yeah,
me. And if that's an
yeah,
asset for you as a coach, then you should use that to your
yeah, yeah,
advantage.
yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. And I think again, like people get worried about how much of themselves to put in, but my advice has always been around, people like for clients and with, when they are thinking about who to work with, or, sometimes they don't even think that they're actually looking for a coach. It's just that they form that connection with someone. And I think branding's such an important way to be available for that to happen. So I think it's a great process. And then I know that a lot of coaches, obviously they get into their coaching and the great, amazing coaches, but then they get into the business stuff and it's like, oh my God, this is all kind of like way over my head. And one of the things I often hear from my clients is that they're not particularly visual, or they wouldn't call themselves creative. I always think that everyone's creative in some way, shape, or form, but they wouldn't kind of see
Yeah.
themselves as being creative. So when it comes to thinking about the branding intentionally, they really don't know where to start or what kind of questions they should be asking themselves with any of it. Have you got any advice for people if, perhaps they are just starting to think bit more intentionally about the branding, but they've got no idea where they should even start with that?
Again, coming back to the Venn diagram, it's
Yeah,
about you and about your clients.
yeah,
So I like to uncover any and all stories behind both the business and the coach and the
yeah,
brand and the person behind the business. And when I talk to my clients, and I always do a strategy session first because I
yeah,
want to understand what's underneath everything. And I guess the key here is to try and find through lines or personalities that you want to dial up. So it's like,
yes,
oh, this little nugget here, like, I like this. So
yeah,
maybe I can run with it. Or I have this thought or this hot take or this part of my story that
yeah,
I really want to bring out. So there are key things that you can pick out. So, I always say, like, just if you want, get a notebook out, write down your whole journey, your whole stories, ups and downs, all of it, and then
yeah,
get a highlighter and start highlighting things and seeing if
yeah,
there's any patterns in there. And then do that for your clients as well. Who are
yeah,
your favorite clients? What do they love doing? Like, what's their story? And
yeah,
then highlight that as well. And then compare the two. There might be
yeah,
fun things that you can see that it's like, oh, this is the same for me and my client. And then,
Yeah.
that's where the connection point comes in. And then you
Yeah.
can reveal that and bring that out more in your branding. For
Yeah.
example, most of my clients love food.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, it's one of those things, isn't it, about looking at your branding and thinking you're naturally going to attract. You can kind of see that there's going to be certain people who are attracted to your work because of the way that you're branded, and I think that's like the takeaway, isn't it? I mean, one of the big takeaways for branding for me is I think that you've got a real opportunity to like call in the right people with what it is that you
Yeah.
put out there, but not by having to necessarily like manufacture something that isn't who you are as well. It's kind of
Yes,
a weird thing, isn't it?
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely about who you are and also what you're comfortable with, right? Because sometimes there might be something really compelling in your story that you're like, I know this will connect, but I'm not comfortable
Yes, yeah,
sharing that
yeah,
side of
of
me.
course,
And
yeah,
and if you're not, then you'll always hold back, or you won't want to show up, or you'd step back and just be a little bit guarded. My goal with working with clients is to always have them feel good, really love their branding so
yeah,
that they can do their job. And then the branding is just there to help them,
yeah,
and to facilitate any conversations or anything that they do, any
yeah,
communication, because it's ultimately helping you communicate with your audience and with your
yeah,
clients.
yeah. And also I think these days as well, in terms of like your visual branding, it's everywhere, isn't it? When you think about how
Yeah.
visual all of these platforms are, from your Instagram content to your YouTube thumbnails to your obviously to your
Mhm.
website, like it kind of goes into everything, doesn't it? So it's just one of those things that's so prevalent. And I think when I think about the branding for my business and just how much stuff is branded, like I think it just goes to show like being intentional with your brand and being prepared to invest in that can be really, really powerful because it is in so many touch points of your business.
Yeah, and I also think that, a lot of people, like you said earlier, have an idea of what branding is. It's like color palette, fonts, and like these types of imagery. I have to
Mhm.
stick to them like so that I can be super, super consistent. But there are ways, and I guess it depends on the platform. It
Yeah.
depends on the way of your communication, whether it's
Hmm.
via email or via
Hmm.
reel or via
Hmm.
TikTok. Like you can put as much or as little in there as long as
Yeah.
there is something in there. I think, whether it's like a typeface or even some words that you use, like
Yeah.
sometimes I have content that is just me talking and
Yeah.
there's no visuals around it. I
Yes.
have a
Yeah.
podcast too, so it's like,
Yeah.
well, no
Yeah.
one can see any
Yeah.
of my
Yeah.
branding, but the things that I talk about links back to what my brand is about, and
Yeah.
has those kind of, I guess, undertones and that foundation there. So
Yeah.
that's why I mentioned earlier that knowing your foundation is super important,
Yeah.
because you'll then find it a lot easier to integrate things in,
Yeah.
and then your creativity will come out, like you
Yes.
said,
Yeah.
right? Like you
Yeah.
can creatively insert things everywhere.
Yes.
Um, and that takes practice too. Like
Yeah.
for me, it was always like, oh, I can't copyright. I hate writing copy. And then it's
Yeah.
just like over time, it's like, yeah, I know I just need to do it and do it more. And then it will get better and better.
Yeah.
So it's the
Isn't
same
that
with
isn't that the
branding.
way? So many things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, but I think that's a good little takeaway there, isn't it? It gets easier when you do it. So anything that people are putting off, it just get easier the more you do it. But I really wanted to talk as well because I know that you talked about kind of like the business branding and the signature offer branding, and I know a lot of
Hmm.
coaches do develop like signature systems and methods, signature group programs, signature coaching packages. So I'd love to hear a bit more. I know you were saying there about the differences between the two. I'd
Yeah.
love for you to just talk a bit more about what that looks like, what you should be thinking about with each one, and how they connect as well.
Yeah, so I see branding your business as a nurture tool, like I said before.
Yeah,
So, and then your offer is the thing that you sell. So
yes,
you want to brand it so that you can talk about it, show it off, and have a visual difference. So when you're launching or when you're talking about your package, something in your audience's head is like, oh, she's talking about her actual offer, like how to work with this person,
yeah,
instead of just like, oh, here are, my thought leadership things, or like things you can think about, and here's what my brand is about, and these are the types of people that, resonate with me.
yeah,
So that's the difference there. The analogy that I like to use it's like going to Disney World and then you have all the different lands
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
So they're all branded differently. You
Yeah.
look at them as like their own little thing. They can be
Hmm.
siloed and be by themselves, but then you
Yeah.
know when you're in Disneyland that everything in there is Disneyland
Yeah.
related.
Yeah, I love
So
that.
that's how I think about offers. And obviously,
Yes.
Disneyland has a lot of them, but I think I normally say brand one signature offer, at least to start, because
Yeah.
that then builds your muscle and also you start knowing like, oh, what constitutes as a signature offer.
Yeah.
And if that's the key thing that you sell, if you have a signature group program
Yeah.
or a one-to-one package, then that's probably your key thing. Like the
Yeah.
either it's the thing that makes you the most money or the thing that, is your front facing offer that
Yeah.
you offer most people that come.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I love the analogy with Disneyland. Because I think that the thing, isn't it? So we're kind of talking about it being distinctive from the rest of your brand, but not like in another universe.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. Like you can, call them sister brands, or
yes,
I like to see it as like the umbrella, like your
yeah,
your business brand is the umbrella, and then your offer kind of sits underneath it or sits next to it, and
mm,
it's still related. There are
yeah,
things that you can still see that are okay, yeah, that's related to, your main brand, and you can see
hmm,
the link.
yeah,
So like my example or my own signature offer, which is
mhm,
the offer oven,
yeah,
it's all oven themed
yes,
and
yeah,
bread and baking bread themed.
yes,
So I have a framework called Rise. I use the bread emoji whenever I talk about the
yeah,
offer
yeah,
oven.
yeah,
Like, I have little merch type things that have
yeah,
oven
yeah,
gloves and aprons and stuff.
yeah,
Whereas my overall business brand is about food.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's what I talk about and the analogies that I've used. But yeah, so that's kind of stands alone, but then it's also linked back to my
yes,
main brand. Um,
yeah,
and I think that's a nice way to have a tie-in. It doesn't have to be like a theme or something. It can
yeah,
be your visuals that are slightly different. One of my clients, Rachel Emma Waring, she's a sales consultant. Her brand is all about light, but then her signature offer about launching, luminous launching, is
mhm,
for worldly. So the things that we changed are more like a color difference, so you can
yeah,
immediately tell that she's talking about something different, but there
yeah,
are elements that are still the same between the main brand and the offer brand as well. So
yeah,
many different ways to do it, but that's
yeah.
basically how I would look at it.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. It's not something that I'd thought about much actually, about that difference and about how using that distinctiveness with your signature offer and as a way to kind of get people to know that this is like, oh, we're talking about this now. This is different. We're in this launch, or she's talking about this. And I think that's a really great reminder about being able to do that and using that as a tool, using the visuals as a tool and that
Yeah,
shape.
exactly. It's using it as a tool,
Yeah.
right? You don't want to
Yeah.
just brand your offer for branding its sake. Again, it's
Yeah.
like it needs a reason to be there, and
Yeah.
the reason for it is to help you sell. And
Yeah.
the main reason to brand the offer is actually it'll help you talk about it a lot easier. You can create assets a lot easier because it has its own look and feel.
Yeah.
And then once you do it more, your
Yeah.
clients will then start recognizing it, and it's almost like a insider thing that like, oh, we know about it, like feeling as well.
I absolutely love that. And just to say as well, they're having an emoji for your for
Yeah.
your for your for your offers. I've got that for one of mine now. I always use the same emoji for one of my offers. But yes, I love that. So when
Yeah,
you're
and,
thinking
and then
about
your
emojis,
audience would recognize it, right? Like, oh, where's she
yeah.
put that emoji? It's like, okay, yeah, I know she's talking about
Yeah, yeah. So there we go, tip, use emojis.
that.
Use an
Yes.
emoji. But thank you so much, Isa, for today. This has been really, really fascinating. And like I say, everyone has got to go and check out your website because it's wonderful. And it's a really great example of a lot of the things that we've talked about actually right there. So would you like to tell people where they can find you online and how they can learn more about you and your work?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Studio Coya, Coya, everywhere. So I'm mostly on Instagram, Threads as well, and my website is studiocoya.com. And yeah, I love chatting all things branding. So if you have any questions or want to talk about anything further, like definitely just pop me a DM, and also anything food related
Yes.
as well. I'm always up for that. And I also have a free quiz
Yeah,
as well if you wanted to take it. It's basically figuring out where you are on your branding journey so you can see like what
amazing.
are the next steps you might want to take. So that might be a good next step for
Brilliant. And
anyone
we'll
listening.
make sure that the link for that is all in the description and show notes for everyone to go and check out. But yes, please do go and check out Isa's stuff because it is brilliant. It's been really inspiring to me to have a look at. And it's just so much fun. It's like, again, I think, sometimes we kind of like lose the fun in business. And I think it's
Yeah.
like a branding is such a creative like way to just bring in some fun back if that's your vibe, but I think
Yeah.
for most people
Yeah,
it will be.
exactly. It's all about bringing your personality into it, whatever
Yeah,
it may be. And,
yeah,
you know, I hate using the word authentic because it means
yes,
so many different things, but
yeah,
it's bringing a side of you out that you want to showcase
yeah,
and then to create that connection. That's all it is. It's another way for people to connect with you. And if it genuinely reflects who you are, it really helps with calling in the right people.
yeah, yeah. I love that. Thank you so much for being on the show. It's been
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
having me.